So I just watched the Nemesis Part 1, and I totally forgot this was completely foreshadowing Beast Machines. Also known as the episode where a Transformers Bible shows up, this is the end. Megatron is without a base, the Maximals have an overpowered Tigerhawk on their side, and it's time to pull out the biggest gun they have in order to try one last desperate attempt to win the Beast Wars. Now, I kind of joke in the intro here, but it really is weird how Beast Machines ended up being so spiritually focused in storyline, and here we feature not only Optimus but Megatron as well, quoting scriptures from the Covenant of Primus, which is, yes, it's essentially a Transformers Bible on audiobook, which is a fun little gag. It's weird. It's weird, but it's an effort to add some gravitas to the episode. Though the idea that this was all preordained and predicted is a little far-fetched. But you know what? The quotations are actually kind of making the events a little bit more epic, so I'll give it to them. So, this is essentially Megatron uncovering the last plot of Tarantulas. Knowing that the spider was always scheming something, he tried to pick up the wreckage and found out, yeah, there is a Decepticon warship that is still functional, that Tarantulas has gotten up and working, and this is Megatron trying to claim it. Kind of a big thing. Now, for starters, let's get something straight. The Nemesis is not the vehicle you saw the Decepticons use as their home base. It is the original vehicle they used that crashed on Earth along with the Ark. They revisit it once in the series, and it's buried in a mountain the same way the Ark is. It's not underwater. That would be the Victory, the ship that they built on Earth to try and get back to Cybertron on. So it's a really interesting pull that they went for the Nemesis. I mean, it tells you that the writers actually knew the history of the show and kind of knew what they were doing as far as what they had to work with. So, again, this is a tarantula scheme that Megatron is taking advantage of. In the course, we get the reference of Unicron Spawn, which is supposed to be son of a, but fans misinterpret it, and it's now just kind of a legendary line, and it kind of influenced exactly what Tarantulas was. A lot of beasts, or I think 3H at the time. I think 3H was handling things at the time for like the convention and the extra comic stories. They kind of took that and ran with it too a little bit. So there's some credence. There's some. It did lead to something, even though we just kind of screwed it up. There's some weird things going on in this one. Well, for starters, Tarantulas somehow had the time and material to build this entire underground submersible railway to get to and from the Nemesis, and he had the ability to fit it with transwarp cells and Predacon controls. When I have downtime, I never have downtime, but when I have downtime to actually have a hobby on the side, I build a model. I play a video game. I don't build an underwater railway system to reconstruct what is essentially it would be like building a submarine to go repair a sunken battleship. That's actually literally what it is. I don't even know why I tried the comparison. That's literally what happened here. The fun of this is a little bit in the chase, because number one, we see that I thought Depth Charge was being more of a team player when X was involved, but he still is zero focused in. We've seen episodes where Depth Charge and came to the Maximals' aid without going nuts because Rampage was there, but here he kind of loses it, mostly for comedic effect, because there's a trap door that leads to this underground waterway, and there's a Looney Tune bundle of TNT just waiting for whoever opens up the trapdoor. It's a great little comedy moment. There's a few little weird Looney Tunes moments. This is the episode where Inferno manages to hide behind a tree about that thick. That's a great little trick. funny little things like that. So even here in the last episodes, the Beast Wars writers not really afraid to kind of play with old tropes and reference the stuff that they really liked. The TNT blast is actually strong enough to completely wreck Silverbolt to the point where he's basically out of it for the episode. But also, it caused a shockwave that everyone flying in could feel, but it didn't hurt Depth Charge at all. Depth Charge was absolutely fine, even though he was point blank. Little favoritism toward the Transmetals, I feel there. I'm sorry, Fusor is apparently not built as tough. But again, there's also a good comedic bit there when Black Arachnia gets to him. See, there's a side plot here that literally is kind of just filler to give a few of the extra Predacons something to do to set them up for their eventual demise. That's basically what it is. Quick Strike, Inferno, and Waspinator are tasked with setting up a new base, which basically means his most ineffective troops are off doing their own thing. Megatron doesn't care. Megatron does not care what they're doing, what they're up to, doesn't care how they spend their time. He's laser focused on the Nemesis, taking Rampage and Dinobot 2 with him because they're the strongest troops he's got, and the two most controllable. So, I kind of feel bad. That like there's a B squad of Predacons who basically have to use the Arthropoids as their enemy for the episode. But it's the last straw for Waspinator. That's the great thing about the whole thing is it's Waspinator finally going, I'm tired of this. I'm just kind of sick of getting blown up all the time. I'm sick of being evil. I love that line too. Now, like, if Waspinator came to this conclusion after like the, 27th time he got blown up, maybe we wouldn't have gotten to this point. Maybe we would have had Maximal Waspinator at this point, which is an interesting idea in itself. I'm not even sure how that would wrap up. That'd be fun to play with. Maybe that's a what if story down the line. He gets scrapped, of course he does, for the final time in the series. Inferno Quick Strike basically just wastes time attacking a proto-human colony. What do we get here? Okay, so the real meat of this episode is the final battle between Depth Charge and Rampage, who are battling underwater. It was for once, Depth Charge was going to be a team player and went after Megatron when they found out what he was up to. And he probably would have actually just made a play for Megatron if he wasn't intercepted by Rampage. And the fight they had, they're a little over choreographed at parts. There's like this spinny, flippy section that felt like a Bay movie because it was very hard to follow what they were doing and what the point of it was. But for the most part, it's a really good battle between the two. I like the idea of using raw Energon as weaponry in this fight because it actually does hurt Rampage too much to heal himself. And because it was an Energon scalpel that separated his spark in the first place, meaning an Energon blade is going to be the only thing that is likely to destroy Rampage's spark. What's fascinating about the scene is when Depth Charge has him pinned and is trying to drive the spike into Rampage's spark, Rampage lets it go and just lets it happen. Like, there is something in him that is so insane and maniacal. He wants this to finally end because, with these two, it was always going to be mutually assured destruction. They were going to destroy each other one way or another. And I think if Rampage could choose to go out, it would be against Depth Charge. So that makes sense. Is another weird thing in Transformers where, Depth Charge, the remains of Depth Charge float up to the surface. One, they're metal. How? But also, we've seen Transformers. He felt like he was in as many pieces as Silverbolt was earlier in this episode. And no one tried to salvage him or double check to see if he actually did survive that blast or if he was still online or in stasis lock somehow. We just kind of assumed he was dead, which I think is kind of a letdown. Kind of a letdown. It's weird. Wasp and Eric can get chopped into ribbons, but Depth Charge just explodes, and yeah, one survives, one doesn't. Guess who? But it's a great battle between them, and when it ends and when Rampage dies, we get this like weird like flash thing with Dinobot where he kind of flashes back and forth between his original self and the clone. We're left to assume that this had some kind of like Matrix connection thing that caused the original Dinobot's spirit to kind of override and like influence Dinobot 2. But it's not quite right. So this is supposed to be the follow-up to the Lost episode Dark Glass, and without that, we don't really have context. We don't know that Dinobot 2 is supposed to have the memories downloaded into him of the original Dinobot, right? That's supposed to be a thing. It's not, so we're just kind of left to assume it's some kind of like Mystic Matrix thing. I will say the Nemesis rising from the ocean with all the water falling off of it, it's a great visual to end on. It makes for a fantastic cliffhanger. On its own, on its own, I would say it's I'd say enjoyable, bordering on masterful. It's a great setup to the finale. There's a couple little bits of it that I think could have been a little bit stronger, and I really wish Inferno and Quick Strike got something better to do for the episode, because it really does just come off as filling time, and yeah, what happens to them is kind of unfortunate given the circumstance. But that is my look at Nemesis Part 1, and if all went to Keikaku. So you're going to see Part 2 right now. So please, go watch it. We'll finish this whole series up. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.